Number 5 of Scott Walters and the number 98, the winner a year ago, Keith Gardner. On row number 3, it's Chuck Winters, the 1989 late model champion, and a big surprise in qualifying tonight in Lenny LeGrand in car number 66. Moving down the front straightaway, the 1990 late model champion, Frank Kimmel, and on the outside, it's Junior Blankenship, a former sportsman champion. On back, it's the number 3 of Marty Belcher, a two-time feature event winner in 1990. Flanking him on the outside is Shively, Kentucky's number 47, Gregg Pike. On back in the lineup to the number 7, Roland Isaacs, the winner of the Louisville 150 this summer, and the number 20 of Preston Ford, a 5-time feature event winner in 1990. On back, it's Rick Carr from Crestwood, Kentucky, and Louisville, Kentucky's Ronnie Page. And then it's the number 77 of Keith Storms, the 08, Valley Stations, Kentucky's Tony the Tiger Johnson. And then all the way from Somerset, Kentucky, the number 37 of Jack Cornett, Clarksville, Indiana's Bill Kimmel Jr., a second-generation driver. On back in the lineup, it's the Metal Center ride, the number 74 of Brian Baum. On the outside, the number 39 of Ron Phillips, LaGrange, Kentucky's David Cornett, the 80 of Curtis Teague, 71 Henry Wallace, and car number 1 Steve Webb.
They're bringing it around this time for the start. Larry Meadows in the 44, 87 Bill Webb side by side. We're underway with the WAMZ Metal Center Bluegrass 300 showtime.
And the green flag is out, and they're off into turns 1 and 2, still side by side for the lead. Everybody wants to go cautious in the early going of this contest as Louisville, Kentucky's Larry Meadows leads the field down into turns 3 and 4. Side by side battle for second. Scott Walters will take the spot over Bill Webb in the number 87.
Right off the bat, Bill Webb washed up just a little bit, and Chuck Winters is going to battle him for the third spot right now. So Webb having a little trouble keeping her down on the racetrack. He doesn't want to lose too many. Some tapping in there as both Kimmel and Gardner bang, but they're both still going straight.
It was the domino effect down into turns 3 and 4 as this field attempts to sort themselves out for a 300-lap race here tonight, the Metal Center Bluegrass 300. It's Larry Meadows coming around to lead lap number 2. Scott Walters right on his tailpipes there going into turns 1 and 2. And the number 8 of Chuck Winters in there at third. Bill Webb goes fourth, and Keith Gardner rounds out the top 5. And there's a bonus to be paid at lap number 100.
Well, there sure is. And right now they're battling for the number 4 spot. Gardner to the inside of Webb.
Into turns 1 and 2, and it's the number 98 of Keith Gardner, the winner 1 year ago in this event, taking the inside groove on the number 87 of Bill Webb, the 1988 late model champion here at Louisville Motor Speedway. They're down the front straightaway and back into turns 1 and 2, and you want to keep in mind that some parts of this racetrack is still wet, and you don't want to get into those parts, especially the infield. The infield could be curtains for a driver if he gets stuck down in the muck out there tonight.
The Oldsmobile of Scotty Walters is wanting to go to the lead. He is trying every which way around Larry Meadows. You know, we talk about you can't win this race early. You could lose it early. Scott Walters is buying none of that. He wants the lead. He wants it now, and he is sizing Meadows up every lap.
Meadows washes up the banking down in turns 3 and 4, maintains the leadership into turns 1 and 2, and instead of Walters going for the lead, he may be battling the number 8 of Chuck Winters for the third place position as Keith Gardner will watch that battle in front of him.
Well, you talked about the bonus money. Right now, that's what Larry Meadows is looking for. First of all, 2 bonuses he's got in mind. The first one is at lap number 100, but if he can lead all the way to there, he's probably going to be the guy that gets the big $500 Metal Center bonus for leading the most laps.
The number 1 of Steve Webb has gone back to the pit area at lap number 8 of the contest. They're in single file throughout the first 15 spots here as they move down the back straightaway. As we see the number 44 of Larry Meadows, last week's feature event winner, and moving down the front straightaway, a 2-time feature event winner each and every summer here at Louisville Motor Speedway in the Harris Racing Oldsmobile. Scott Walters knocking on the back door. Walters now not looking to the outside, but to the inside now.
Oh, but pushing Larry Meadows around. It's a dandy battle for the lead. Scott Walters wants to make the move, but he just can't get a shot to pull the trigger. Again, he peeks inside, but Meadows will hold him off for another lap.
Into turns 3 and 4. You don't want to wear yourself out too early, especially in a race of this magnitude, as these drivers have a long distance to go tonight, and various age groups and stamina levels could play an important part as well.
Well, and lap traffic's going to play a part because we're about to start seeing these guys try to go through lap traffic, and Scotty Walters may be trying to size up and hope Meadows makes a mistake in the lap traffic portion of the track.
I believe Scott Walters has backed off. He's just going to ride in that number 2 spot for a while and maybe hope Larry messes up. But right now it doesn't look like Walters is pressing Meadows so much for the lead. And in fact, lap traffic could play an important important part here is the 71 of Henry Wallace in a borrowed race car goes one lap down.
You know, you want to win the race first and foremost, but everybody knows how much bonus money the Metal Center and Right Way Grinding Saw and Tool have put up at different stages of this race. So that's why it's important to get the lead and stay there. Meadows has got it. Walters right now the only man challenging him. Meadows washed up a little bit that time. He does it again. I think Walters will try and take a shot.
There's a tremendous bunch of daylight between the second and third place position. Right now, it's more or less of a drag race and not a stock car race for the first two positions, as we do have a two-car race for the lead. And again, we ask ourselves the questions, is Scott Walters trying to wear out Larry Meadows?
Well, that's a good question. And into the pits, Marty Belcher has taken the Dave Comer Camaro, not into the infield pit, but into the outside pits. In NASCAR terms, that's like going behind the garage wall. That does not speak well for the chances of, really, that seals the chances of Marty Belcher to win this thing.
Marty must have saw an oil light come on, meaning major problems in the engine compartment, and he has taken it behind. Whoa, trouble up in turn number 1. 4 cars involved. It looks as though the number 20 of Preston Ford, the number 7 there of Roland Isaacs, the 6 of Rick Carr, and the 74 of Brian Baum involved in our first altercation here, and a lot of, it looks like perhaps oil or water from underneath the hood of the number 7 going into turns 1 and 2. We hope that's not too terminal in Roland Isaacs' case.
Well, Roland's rolling and driving it away, so that should be a good sign anyway. Red flag immediately because of what looked like oil or at least water. We could not have him racing to yellow and sucking 10 or 12 cars up into that mess. That's why the red flag. What the red flag means, though, is we'll revert back a lap in the scoring. Yet laps under yellow will count up till number 295, but of course not immediately following a red. So what we'll do is revert the scoring back one lap to the last completed.
Courier Journal this week on the Roland Isaacs driver that has a big future in automobile racing, as does a lot of the drivers here at Louisville Speedway. They want to race on the other racing circuits, then touring and traveling and running their way to the Winston Cup.
Well, exactly. I think you're going to see Frank Kimmel trying to find some more shots at taking some chances, places to run. Scott Walters has run some ASA racing this year. They'll expand more on that. Mike Garvey has run here off and on, obviously. He's tried to continue to move up the ladder and right down the line. But you mentioned one, obviously. Bill Webb, I understand, is going to run some different circuit racing in the future. But again, you mentioned it very much so. Roland Isaacs really wants a shot at the big time, and he'll continue. You know, he's been a scourge the last few years in this area. He's done very well this year here, and Roland would like to saddle up and see how high up the ladder he can go.
I'll tell you what, Scott Douglas, it's, you can honestly say to make it on the Winston Cup circuit, you've got to make it here first.
Well, and every one of them will tell you. I mean, and our old buddy Darrell Walton was the first to tell you, you know, you got to come out and pay your dues on the short tracks. And you know, I think the best example of that is who is.
And the Tri-City Oldsmobile pace car pulling down into the infield area. Less than one lap to go, and the green flag will be back out. The number 44 of Larry Meadows has been the leader throughout the first 18 laps of the contest. But Scotty Walters, I'm afraid, is about ready to go to war with Larry Meadows.
Well, Scotty's already been sizing it up, dying to get around him. And again, the more Larry leads, the more he moves in on some bonus money. Scotty wants that cash.
Out of turn number 4, it's Meadows up through the gearbox, and they're back into turns 1 and 2. The number 5 of Scott Walters rides at second. Chuck Winters goes third. At fourth, it's Keith Gardner. Rounding out the top 5 is the number 28 of Frank Kimmel. Now going 6th, it's Bill Webb. 7th, the 25 of Junior Blankenship. Then Lenny LeGrand, Gregg Pike, Ronnie Page, and the 69 of Bill Kimmel Jr. They're in single file down the back straightaway and into turns 3 and 4.
Certainly the biggest surprise of the night's got to be at the back of the pack, where Preston Ford is all the way at the tail of this field. And you know, Preston, the winningest driver of the season here, a guy that many of us had thought had a shot to win. He's not out of it by any means, but certainly that to me has been one of the big surprises, is Preston's early demise here.
Okay, and he's got a long way to go. Moving down into turns 1 and 2 and flashing past the VIP Luxury Suite is your leader, the number 44 of Larry Meadows. And again, Scott Walters hooks up in a tight two-car draft with him. And Scott Douglas are able to pull away from the rest of the field.
Yeah, but Walters wants him, and Scotty's a nice race car driver, but patience sometimes isn't one of his virtues. I think Scotty wants to get that thing to the front. He's dying to try and pull the trigger on Larry Meadows in the Robert Holbert number 44, and well, I think he's going to take a shot here pretty soon. You know what's most interesting to me is Chuck Winters looks just nice, calm, content. I'm going to sit here in third, and I'm going to wait a while.
Okay, it'll be the first time we've ever seen a calm and content Chuck Winders here at Louisville Motor Speedway. He's your third place running car, and that number 8, the Kentucky Lottery Racing Buick. Looks as though the number 20 of Preston Ford is headed down pit road, and I tell you what, things just don't look good early for the P&E Racing team.
Not only did he head down pit road, it looked like he was out of power by the time he got to his crew. So, indeed, a bad break for Preston Ford, who was figured to be one of the favorites here today, no question about it. While we were watching other things, all of a sudden, Larry Meadows has opened up about 8 car lengths on Scotty Walters.
Well, I believe Walters has just decided to let him go. 26 laps into this event, no time to be doing some real close racing. You want to be a finisher, and then you want to be a winner.
Yeah, I was watching the battle for fourth, too. Frank Kimmel is now sizing up Keith Gardner, and I think Kimmel would be willing to wait, but if he gets a shot, here he goes. Kimmel again, looked to the inside, couldn't get the bite. Frank Kimmel may be deciding it's time to try and get into the top 4. He wants a piece of the defending champion.
Okay, and Bill Webb's in that battle as well. And the number 87, Gary Hostetler, prepared Pontiac, moving into turns 1 and 2. And the number 25 of Junior Blankenship as well. And again, Frank Kimmel looking to the inside of Keith Gardner. Does he have enough stuff to pull that Chevrolet Lumina up along the inside of that Ford Thunderbird Super Coupe? It remains to be seen. Back into turns 1 and 2. They're still bumper to bumper. Kimmel getting off the turns a little stronger than that number 98 Keith Gardner. I know Kevin Gardner just installed a new engine in that number 98 Ford Thunderbird. Moving down into turns 1 and 2. And as they creep past the inside of the number 83 of LaGrange, Kentucky's David Cornetti on the back straightaway.
Absolutely, and now Kimmel has decided, well, no, here he goes again, trying to get up and get a bite on that the ride of Keith Gardner. Gardner holds him off, but again, Gardner seems to be taking a little higher line, and boy, Frank says if he can get that inside spot, he's going to try and take it from him.
The number 6 of Rick Carr pulling down on the inside apron of the racetrack, finding the infield, and I believe someone needs to service that number 6 of Rick Carr's machine as it is now pulled into the infield. They continue under green here after 32 laps of competition. You're watching the Metal Center Bluegrass 300 here, the final event on the schedule at the Louisville Motor Speedway. 33 laps into the books. And it's the number 44 of Larry Meadows of Louisville, Kentucky, who continues to lead.
And now the top 3 have really separated by the entire length of the straightaway from the 4th place running Keith Gardner, and they've got to pick their way. Gardner and Kimmel, Webb and the bunch still through some of the lap traffic, as first Henry Wallace and Ron Phillips are in front of those guys.
Meadows back into turns 1 and 2 and about 3 car lengths over Scott Walters as they scoot down the back straightaway and into turns 3 and 4. Still about 6 car lengths behind them is the number 6 of Chuck Winders moving down the front straightaway. And then it's the number 98 of Keith Gardner in a hotly contested battle with the number 28 of Frank Kimmel and the number 87 of Bill Webb. And Junior Blankenship is a real player in this thing, as well as Lenny LeGrand and the number 66 as they work out of turn number 4 and click up lap number 37 on the lap counter. Meadows now looking to the inside of the number 74, the Metal Center car of Brian Baum, and Brian is 1 lap down to the leaders. The number 5 of Scott Walters follows suit. And again, Scott Douglas has a very contrast to the 1989 event. Really no bumper-to-bumper racing. Everybody's just kind of settled down for this first 100.
Yeah, Larry Meadows really looks hooked and running strong and now beginning to operate with a little bit of room right now. Scott Walters has got a good pace going. Chuck Winders just keeping those 2 guys in sight. And I think Frank Kimmel is continuing to try and decide how hard to test Keith Gardner right now. I think he thinks he can get the spot, but it's kind of how much do you want to use up going for it this early in the race.
They've completed 40 laps here this evening and just over what a normal weekly feature event is run. The number 44 of Larry Meadows has opened up about a 6-car length separation between himself and the second place running Scott Walters. Meadows trying to creep around the outside of the number 33, Ronnie Page, who has just completed his first full season in late models.
We are about to go into late model no man's land for 1990 because at one stretch, the most laps these guys have competed head-to-head has been 50 in the 3 legs of the Louisville 150. Once we get past that, it's all new for 1990.
Working the outside of Henry Wallace in the number 71 off turn 2 and down the back straightaway. Larry Meadows in car number 44. And you know, Scott Douglas, it's very remarkable that Meadows jumping in a strange car and then coming out here getting the absolute track record established here tonight. And then leading this event with the guy right behind him there, Scott Walters, in a car that he's been familiar with all summer long.
Let me tell you a little something about Larry Meadows. First off, Larry Meadows has struggled for the last 3 years. And the one thing about Larry is he hadn't picked up and quit, and he hasn't cried and complained. He and his guys just kept coming and kept trying, and they kept thinking, as Keith Gardner's now boxing a bunch of slow traffic a little back. Back to Larry is you see that? There you go. There's the bunch that Keith Gardner is in right there. And, boy, he's trying to pick his way through. And we'll get back to Meadows in a minute, Frank. But as we look at Gardner and Kimmel, that's one of those unknown factors. Trying to come through all this lap traffic, boy, disaster can loom at any time when you're going around the slower cars.
It sure is, Scott. You know, it just takes just a moment of helmet fade, and the inside car could slowly start skittering up the banking and get into you, and that's something you have to watch for, you know. And that's what a lot of the cars on the lead lap are looking when they get around these lap cars.
You know, a little earlier we were talking about Larry Meadows, the race leader in the number 44, and something about Larry that you know, we were talking about the way he's hung in there, and now things are turning for him a little bit. He won at another track a few weeks ago, got his first win here ever last week. But then he was talking to the Holbert folks. This deal had been coming, and even though he won last week, he said, no, I know that's a good race car. I want to try my luck in the 44 car. Larry Meadows knows how to win big races from right down the line, from back. He's the only two-time winner of the Kentucky Asphalt Championship, won those back-to-back, won an ASA Sportsman event at Salem Speedway, won the Pepsi 50 over Darrell Waltrip and a bunch of guys like that. You know, he knows how to win the big-time events, and Larry Meadows certainly wants to put this one right in the middle of the mantelpiece.
Well, they're going to have to overcome a lot of variables here. Can the car go the distance? Will the engine hold up long enough? And speaking of that, the number 25 of Junior Blankenship spins out of turn number 4, and we'll see our second caution flag period at lap number 53. So caution coming out onto the field. It looks as though the number 25 of Junior Blankenship and his B&R Speed Shop Hutchinson Insurance and Mac Tool sponsored IROC Z28 has called it quits up in the 4th turn area. It will bring out our Tri-City Oldsmobile pace car on the field at lap number 53, and we'll find our leader once again, Larry Meadows.
Indeed, that's the situation there as Junior Blankenship comes out.
This answer asks the big question here now. Taking on fuel at lap number 58, can they go the distance?
That's what it's telling me, is that Bill Kimmel Jr. thinks he can go the distance now, and he's going to take this shot here and play some cards, roll some dice. Bill Kimmel Jr. may be saying, we're going to get our fuel early. We're trying to figure fuel mileage and a conservative race strategy. They've got their fuel now. I think they can go the rest of the way, Frank, but nobody else thinks they can go more than about 220.
Well, nobody else knows that but Williams, and Hardesty, and the pit crew, the number 69, Bill Kimmel Jr.
Well, you know, we've seen it in NASCAR so many times, like Darrell Waltrip's Daytona 500 fuel mileage win. Maybe Bill Kimmel Jr.'s got something up the sleeves, but obviously, of those cars on the lead lap, Bill Kimmel Jr., the only one that we've seen decide to get his fuel this early at lap 59. Still a little early, I think, for most of the leaders to feel confident about trying to fuel up for the rest of the way.
Okay, and the number 20 of Preston Ford is pulled out of the infield area, slowing up in Bluegrass 300 after a caution flag period at lap number 60. The number 44 of Larry Meadows on the outside of that front row. The cars on the inside are at least one lap down or set to go a lap down as they pick up the RPMs down into turns 3 and 4. And out of turn number 4, the green flag is back out on the Metal Center Bluegrass 300 presented by WAMZ. They're back into turns 1 and 2. Meadows tiptoeing his way around the outside of Keith Storms at the end of the back straightaway. Scott Walters will come with him in the number 5. Chuck Winders is also hooked onto that 3-car draft as they work out of turn 4.
Keith Storms didn't like giving that lap up very much, but he had to, and now Scott Walters is up to try a charge again on Larry Meadows. Now we're getting very close to that first bonus lap. Scott Walters may start thinking a little more seriously about taking a shot very soon.
Again, that lead twosome opens up a lot of daylight between themselves and the number 8 of Chuck Winders. Not so much daylight right now, but it looks like they're well on their way. The battle resumes back at 4th place between the number 98 of Keith Gardner and the number 28 of Frank Kimmel as they work bumper to bumper down the front straightaway. Bill Webb still in the thick of things in the number 87, and it looks like Frank Kimmel got around the inside of the number 98 of Keith Gardner. Gardner lost momentum on the back straightaway. Bill Webb had to get on the brakes to keep from running over him. And I tell you what, what? Things aren't looking so great for the 98 right now.
I don't think there's anything wrong with the 98. He got caught in a situation where the Rick Carr car, the number 6 car, just got back on the track, had not picked up speed. Gardner was caught on the outside trying to get around Ron Page's 33, and man, he just got carried up too far up, and he couldn't get back down, so it cost him spots that will drop him. Look how we got a problem as Lenny LeGrand and Henry Wallace have gotten together in the turn 2 area, right between the Louisville and the Kentucky. Another caution flag on lap 66.
Okay, so the 66 of Lenny LeGrand tangled with the number 71 of Henry Wallace. Actually, those two cars got together while looking for some racing room going into turns 1 and 2. They ran out of racing room, and that's the result. Lenny LeGrand's JB's Body Shop Racing Buick is up against the outside retaining wall over in turn number 2. And we understand that Henry Wallace is not in the 71, that another driver is. As soon as we know who is driving the 71, we'll pass that information along to you.
When he's supposed to be in the race, I kept telling him, blackbag and get him out there. He's not supposed to be there. And Henry's been sitting.
Now completed, and the green flag's back out, and Meadows is back into turns 1 and 2 with the number 5 of Scott Walters and the number 8 of Chuck Winters going third.
That restart made it very clear. We were able to see 8 cars remain on the lead lap. Now Bill Webb in the 87 is the tail of the lead lap.
Okay, but he also has some gasoline in his car now, and the other cars up front are slowly but surely starting to, their tanks, needles in their instruments beginning to go down. 74 into the books, less than 30 away from that first Medal Center bonus.
Indeed, and Larry Meadows has led, and not only is he heading for that one, he is continuing to mount a charge toward the lap leader bonus, and that's $500 from the Medal Center, so all of them really going for it.
It'll be Meadows, then Walters, and just about 3.5 seconds back to the number 8 of Chuck Winters. The number 4 position held by, right now currently by the number 28 of Frank Kimmel, and then rounding out the top 5, the number 98 of Keith Gardner. Gardner trying to get around Ronnie Page, as well as the 74 of Brian Baum. Okay, battle for third, and Frank Kimmel, after getting around the 98 of Keith Gardner, has gone to work on the number 8 of Chuck Winters.
But the problem is going to be Winters has got a pick in front of him, and that's Keith Storms, and I don't think that Kimmel's going to be able to pull it off because Winters is going to pinch Storms right down there and keep Kimmel behind him. Boy, it looked like Frankie had picked up the spot, but Chuck saw the track the whole time and was just going to make sure Storms stayed right in front of him. But once they clear that 77, let's see if Kimmel tries him again.
Man, oh man, Frank Kimmel really made up some ground and chased down that number 8 of Chuck Winters as they move down the back straightaway. Again, trying to get around that number 77 of Keith Storms as they work out of turn number 4. Lenny LeGrand's machine slowing down once again down the front straightaway. The leaders will make their way past the inside of him as they work out of turn number 2. Down the back straightaway and into turns 3 and 4, and once again a little daylight opens up between Chuck Winters and the number 28 of Frank Kimmel as they come down the front straightaway.
Bill Kimmel Jr. is the early leader for the Medal Center Most Improved bonus. He started this race 19th, remains on the lead lap in the number 5 position. Scott Walters challenges on the outside. Scotty's going to take the shot. He's within 18 of that first bonus, and he's going for it.
Okay, and it's an Oldsmobile against Illumina down the back straightaway. Meadows presses the button and remains out front. But I tell you what, Walters tried him on the outside that lap. And again, he sets his car, pitches it to the outside to try and get around Larry Meadows in that number 44. First and second place are rolling down the back straightaway and into turns 3 and 4. It's the Saturday night rush hour at LMS.
Boy, it really is, and the battle is definitely for the lead as Scott Walters knows that first mark is at 100, and I think he wants the lead by that time. It's very clear that Scotty Walters has decided to mount a charge for the lead. Again, he's up on Larry Meadows. Meadows drifts up a bit. Scotty peeks inside.
Down the front straightaway, and they click off lap number 85, 15 short of the 100 lap bonus. And it's Larry Meadows of Louisville, Kentucky, down the back straightaway in that Robert Holbert Trucking Company Chevrolet Lumina. Running at second, it's the number 5, the Roadrunner Video Club's Oldsmobile, prepared out of nearby Fairdale, Kentucky by Harris Racing. And then going third, it's the number 8, the Kentucky Lottery Custom Concepts Buick Regal, the number 8 of Chuck Winters, the 1989 late model champion. Going fourth, it's the number 28 of Frank Kimmel out of Jeffersonville, Indiana. Trouble going into turn number 3. Louisville, Kentucky's Brian Baum strikes the outside retaining wall going into turn number 3, and it brings out the caution flag, Scott Douglas.
Brian Baum and Keith Gardner got together on the back straightaway. Gardner still going straight, but Baum got the worst of it. Those two cars got together, they banged, and it sent Baum screeching toward the wall. Brian got on the binders, got it stopped just short of the wall. Well, it remains to be seen how much damage was done. It doesn't appear the Gardner car took much of any damage at all. Now, 88 laps down. Let's see if any of the leaders decide to go ahead and get some fuel now.
Okay, so 88 laps now completed. We see our third caution flag period. The Tri-City Oldsmobile pace car picking up the leaders, and that will let pit road open up here very soon. So we'll have to see who pulls in and makes their pit stops. 89 laps complete, and we're 11 laps short of the bonus paid at 100, lap number 100 to the leader of that event.
I don't see anybody holding up pit boards. Pit road is open. Pit road is open. Nobody's going in yet.
Okay, right now, pit road is open. It looks like the number 44 of Larry Meadows chooses to pass it up, as does the number 5 of Scott Walters, the third place running Chuck Winders. So that's the situation right now.
Still too early. I'm looking down pit row. I don't see any of the teams grabbing their pit boards, and it didn't look like Meadows even thought about going down the pits. The pit road is open now. If, in case you're wondering when it opens, you can see the NASCAR official all the way at turn 2 with standing with the red jacket on. You'll see him hold a red flag out when pit road is closed. Right now he's got that red flag behind his back to indicate pit road is open. Most of the pit teams have pit boards and ways to indicate to their driver when they're ready for their pit stop. And Frank, the crew chiefs are calling the pit stops here.
They sure are. Yeah, I just saw Gary Hostetler walk to the pit wall, hold up the chalkboard to Bill Webb that said okay. Webb gave him the thumbs up signal. So that's the way they look. Now 10 laps away from the bonus being paid at lap number 100 here in the Middle Center Bluegrass 300.
Larry Meadows obviously is going to continue to stay out as 90 laps are down. They are now within what you call the cushion range, the range where they think that they could go ahead, completely top the fuel tank off, and then make it the rest of the way. But I think the leaders, and I'm trying to think with Roy Meadows and Billy Harris and these people up front, and with the all-star kind of crew, Jerry Lee and Barry Pullen and that bunch of Chuck Winders has put together, the Shirley crew, those 4 up front there that have not, and of course the Gardner crew also hasn't pitted yet, and trying to think with those guys, and I think they're all thinking tires more than fuel, Frank. They figure they're going to get another yellow. I think they want to use these tires a little more and then put on fresh rubber for maybe a sprint over the last 100 laps.
Okay, Tony Heverin with the WW&H crew just posted the chalkboard up for Bill Kimmel Jr. asking him if everything was okay, and apparently so, as the field gets double stacked down the back straightaway. So these crews remain in constant communication with their drivers out there on the track with those chalkboards along onto pit road. So again, the Bud Light push car finding its way down into the infield section, and the Speedway and the field is shown 1 lap to go before the green flag comes back out.
Again, there are 8 cars that are still on the lead lap. Those are the cars on the outside. The 44 of Larry Meadows, the 5 of Scott Walters, the 8 of Chuck Winders, the 28 of Frank Kimmel, the 69 of Bill Kimmel Jr., the 98 of Keith Gardner, and the 47 of Gregg Pike, and the 87 of Bill Webb. Those are the cars that are still on the lead lap. The inside cars are at least 1 lap down.
Okay, and keep in mind, Bill Kimmel Jr. may not have to stop for fuel. The green flag is back out. The field is back into turns 1 and 2. Larry Meadows now working the outside of Keith Storms on the back straightaway. Storms is not on the lead lap, but gets the line right back up alongside of him here according to LMS rules. Meadows clearly around Storms and then back into turns 1 and 2 now. 7 laps short of the bonus being paid by the Metal Center. They're down the back straightaway as the 74 Brian Baum gets back into competition. Now, Scott Walters looks to the inside of Larry Meadows, and the fans stand on their feet there on the front straightaway. Walters thought he had a shot to the inside of Larry Meadows, and certainly Walters knows about the bonus being paid at lap number 100.
Well, absolutely, and there's no question, but I don't think that he's not willing, obviously, to tear his car up to get there, but boy, he wanted to take the shot then. But right now, Larry Meadows still has too much for him, and at least with everybody at 100%, it doesn't look like anybody can get around Larry Meadows. Those first 3-4 cars could stay with him. Walters is going to try him again, but so far it has not been there, as there are only 3 laps to go for that first bonus. Oh, Walters gives him a little tap on the back straightaway as Scotty wants to take a shot, but Larry isn't going to pull over. You could forget that.
Yeah, it looks like Walters getting off the turns a little bit better than our leader, the number 44 of Larry Meadows. The big question is, does he want to win the battle or does he want to win the war? And 2 laps away from now from that Metal Center bonus being paid at lap number 100.
Indeed, as he'll come around, number 99 is clicked off with Larry Meadows. 1 more circuit, and the first, well, not the first because he's already picked up a $250 Metal Center bonus, his fast qualifier, but about another $250 to go in the till right here as the first Metal Center bonus of $250 on lap 100 goes to Larry Meadows. Okay,
and Larry Meadows roars off into turns 1 and 2, and Scott Walters there on his tail. Scott Douglas, we've got another bonus coming up at lap number 150.
That's the Right Way Halfway Challenge. Right Way Grinding Saw and Tool has $300 posted to the leader of lap number 150. So Larry Meadows, again, has got another $300 that he's going to try and grab real quick. Another battle to keep in mind that could develop, and one that I'm going to watch while I'm watching the leaders. Among cars that have pitted, and I think are going to try and go all the way, Bill Kimmel Jr. is the leader of that pack. He's fifth on the racetrack, but the only other cars on the lead lap that have taken on fuel, Gregg Pike and Bill Webb, are both behind him. Those two cars are trying to challenge Keith Gardner for sixth on the track right now, and Pike's got a shot at it.
Okay, and they move into turns 1 and 2. The number 47 of Gregg Pike trying to size up Keith Gardner on the inside as they move down the back straightaway. Again, we're watching some action in the mid part of the pack as Scott Walters has backed off from Larry Meadows. But again, it's Pike up along the inside of Gardner. The lap car there of Ronnie Page just in front of him. And Pike drops back behind Gardner. I believe they're going to go around Page on the outside.
Well, he's going to have to. Right now Pike continues to try him, but Gardner knows where he is. He's got Page put down to the inside, and as long as he can keep Page there, he'll keep Pike there. But it looks like a little distance opens up. Gardner's having trouble holding him right now.
Out of turn number 4, and again, we're watching this battle just outside of the top 5 in positions. This is Keith Gardner running 6th. The 7th place car of Gregg Pike at 8th, Bill Webb, as they move down the back straightaway and into turns 3 and 4. And again, moving to the outside of Ronnie Page. And, Scott Douglas, on a normal 30-lap feature event, a move like that might not be so hard to make. But the big question is, after 107 laps, are these Hoosier tires holding up?
Well, and that's the question, too. And tires are going to be a factor here. Everybody knows it. Everybody says it. And most guys don't want to go 300 laps on tires, although I think that Bill Kimmel, Bill Webb, and Gregg Pike are pretty much telling us that they're willing to go 300 laps on this set.
Okay, and again, Keith Gardner trying to get around the outside of Ronnie Page here on the front straightaway. And he does so successfully. Now Gregg Pike will have to try. He's got a rear bumper full of Bill Webb as they move down into turns 3 and 4.
Pike almost waited too long to go to the outside of Page because Webb was going to try and hop around him. And again, that's a very important battle, and Bill Webb knows it because, right now he's nowhere near the lead car of Larry Meadows. But what Webb, the game he is playing, is the game of early pit stop and hoping to go the rest of the way. And this is an important pass he's making right here. If he can go ahead and get inside of Gregg Pike, Pike is also pitted for fuel already. It's very important for Webb if he can, and he has completed the pass on Gregg Pike. It may not mean a whole lot later, but right now that seems like a very important move for Bill Webb in the 87.
Well, theoretically, if those two cars did not have to stop for a pit stop because they've already made theirs, then that could have been a very important pass. 113 in the books. Larry Meadows, your leader in the number 44 Robert Hobart Trucking Company Racing Chevrolet Lumina. The number 5 of Scott Walters running at 2nd, Chuck Winders at 3rd, and then it is about a straightaway behind to the number 69 of Bill Kimmel Jr., who is showing up on the leaderboard at position number 5 on the field.
Boy, hairy moment for Bill Webb trying to get around the Ronnie Page car. Page really got squirrely right in front of him, but Page didn't completely lose it, and Webb straightened her out, and now Webb has gone around him, so Webb now can set his sights on the car that is directly in front of him of Keith Gardner. The race within a race that I keep talking about among cars that have already pitted, Bill Kimmel Jr. is the leader among cars that have already pitted. He's 5th overall. 2nd in that bunch is Bill Webb now among cars that have already pitted. He is, in terms of the overall race, currently running 7th.
Okay, so that's the way they look. 116 in the books. And once again, coming up on that right way grinding saw and tool halfway bonus.
Well, Larry Meadows wants to see nothing but a green flag right now. If this race is to Larry Meadows, if he could design it, he'd get about 50, 60, maybe even 75 more laps of green flag racing right here, pick him up another bonus or two, probably go over 200, so he'd get all the bonus monies and then duck in the pits, get those tires, get that fuel, and try and get back out with only the Kimmel car on worn tires to try and run down.
Somerset, Kentucky's Jack Cornett goes yet another lap down to the leaders as first and place run down the back straightaway, and only about 2 car lengths separating the first and second place automobiles as they work out of turn number 4. Chuck Winders, for that matter, has dropped back behind the leaders and has elected to stay about a dozen car lengths behind the first and second place position. And again, we're seeing a whole new Chuck Winders here tonight. A patient Chuck Winders, and really he just wants to sit there at the number 3 spot, be around for the finish.
Yeah, I'm about to say, I never thought we'd be using the terms Chuck Winders and patience in the same sentence, but Chuck has driven he has not really tested Walters or Meadows at all, and has looked very content to run third for a while. You know, Chuck told me in an interview we did on our TV show today that he learned a lot last year. And I think one of the things he learned was you can't win this. Look at, now we've got to spin toward the 4th turn. Ronnie Page has looped it as he and Rick Carr got together. Carr was behind him, and Frank Kimmel is almost pinched into the wall by the Cornette car, but it looks like everybody will get around as the yellow flag waves.
Caution shows at lap number 123 in the 1990 Metal Center Bluegrass 300 here this evening, as some automobiles were trying to get around the lap car, the 33 of Ronnie Page. Page's automobile spun harmlessly up in the 4th turn area, but it does bring out our 4th caution flag period at lap number 124. You're watching the Metal Center Bluegrass 300 here at Louisville Motor Speedway.
Blue shirts.
Winders. All right. And it looks like Mickey Clyer and the Chuck Winders crew now moving over to pit wall. Scott Douglas, they've got a chalkboard out.
Yeah, but what they're writing on it is no. It looks like they've written the words no. They're going to show Chuck Winders this time around. They don't want a pit stop yet. Gardner's crew is ready. It looks like they're going to ask Keith to come into the pits. The pits are now open. The leader has been picked up by the pace car. Ronnie Page is in. Frank Kimmel has come into the pits. Okay, Frank Kimmel is into the pits. The Terry Shirley Racing team now is in the pits, and they've got it topped off. No tires, just fuel, and Frank Kimmel will get back on and get back quickly in the lead lap. Let's see now if anybody else jumps in. Jack Cornette's looking like he's going to come in. Again, the Gardner team apparently has called for Keith to come in. No, he's outside of Ron Phillips, so he'll not be able to come in this time around. I saw the Gardner team with a chalkboard for the 98 car, but he has not come in. Likewise, no one else except Kimmel, Frank Kimmel, decided to use that pit stop. Gregg Pike trying to get his spot back on the racetrack as he is coming up, I believe, to take a look at where they're going to put him in the lineup at this point, as he's moved up, and I don't believe he's that high in the track. And he is now. It looks like Pike may be sizing himself up to make a move into the pits. So Pike, who's already pitted once, may be pitting again. And let's see exactly what the 47 car. You know, this may be Gregg Pike saying, "Okay, I'm not going to lose hardly any spots if I pit the fuel some more." Or maybe he's gone down a lap and we didn't realize it, because he has jumped up there behind the pace car, but did not come down the pits. Keith Gardner is ducked inside. This tells me Keith Gardner is going to make a pit stop. He's got to stay behind the pace car. This time around, watch the defending champion, the Byerly Ford Thunderbird, number 98, Frank Scott, I believe. We're about to see a very important pit stop from the Keith Gardner crew.
Well, I believe we are. The number 98 rolling down the front straightaway. This is where he won the race 1 year ago, Scott Douglas, the number 98. And we know Kevin Gardner and the crew are set to do whatever it takes to put Keith Gardner back onto that racetrack and not lose a lap. So he's lined up just behind the pace car. It looks as though the Byerly Ford, by far the best crew, the number 98 jacketed fellas on pit road, are set to do some service, and Gardner passes up pit road.
Boy, that surprised me. He snuck up there like he was coming in, and now we'll drop back. And apparently the Gardner crew changed its mind, and Keith is looking for his spot back in the lineup. Well, I don't know what they've got out there on the track right now as everybody tries to sort their spot out.
I tell you what, Scott Douglas, that might have been a fake. They might have just headed for pit road to see who was going to come with them. Electing to not use the pit area right now. The number 98 of Keith Gardner remains on the racetrack as our Tri-City pace car has stopped down in the first turn area. Once again, our leader after 127 laps of competition, the number 44 of Larry Meadows. Scott Walters in the number 5 runs at second. Chuck Winders going third. At fourth, it's the number 28 of Frank Kimmel. We did see him come down pit road and make a pit stop. And then his older brother, the 69 of Bill Kimmel Jr., is posted up on the board in the number 5 position. .44 has been the story throughout the first 129 laps of this contest. The number 5 of Scott Walters running at second. As they come out of turn number 4, the green flag is back out. Gregg Pike does a super piece of driving to get back onto the lead lap, as he did not take the green with the leader, the 44 of Larry Meadows. Coming out of turn number 4 now and down the front straightaway. Larry Meadows of Louisville, Kentucky, the leader. The number 5 of Scott Walters there at second. Chuck Winters goes at third.
What a tip of the hat. What a great start for Gregg Pike, and that's what he had to do. Gregg Pike is the tail of the lead lap, but he is indeed back on the lead lap. Now Gregg Pike's hopes rest on catching another caution flag, and he'd be allowed to come on around to the tail of that lead pack.
Leaders move down into turns 3 and 4. And down the front straightaway, it's Larry Meadows, then the number 5 of Scott Walters, the number 8 of Chuck Winters. Going fourth now, it's the number 69 of Bill Kimmel Jr., who has gasoline in his car. And then the number 28 of Frank Kimmel, Bill Webb racing side by side. And there's trouble up in turn number 4. Keith Gardner spinning, and it looks like there's oil on the racetrack. Fortunately, no one making any major contact there, but it looks as though the number 66 of Lenny LeGrand has laid down some oil, perhaps.
Not really going to cost anybody too badly, because the red flag came out, and the cars who looped it, the cars among the leaders, the Pike car, the car of Bill Webb, the car also of Keith Gardner, I think they're all going to come around okay, and so they'll still get back on the lead lap. The strange occurrence is that I believe, depending on how the scoring is ruled, this may help Gregg Pike, because it may allow him to bunch back around, but we'll wait and see how the scoring rule goes on it. I believe Pike will come around now and bunch in the 8th spot. He has to go where he is now, and then we'll wait and see on the scoring decision. But boy, that was a moment that could have took out several top contenders. Several of them looped, but everybody was a little bit lucky because they didn't damage their cars.
Okay, and it looks like Mickey Klyer and the crew for Chuck Winters are motioning for Winters down pit road here. So Chuck Winters may be asked to make a pit stop here very shortly. We'll have to see. We're under caution at lap number 132 in the Metal Center Bluegrass 300 with Larry Meadows of Louisville, Kentucky, your leader. Scott Toohey, Gary Lee, and it looks like they are taking on outside tires. So outside tires is the big story right now on Chuck Winters' car, and he's taking on fuel as well. And it looks like the crew has done their work down on pit road. The jack gets dropped back down, and the 1989 late model champion here at Louisville Motor Speedway gets out of the pit area. And once again, he is one of the first cars we've seen all evening take on tires, brand new tires on Chuck Winters' machine. He goes to the tail of the lineup, and he's got his fuel load, so it looks like he can go the distance, and he's on new tires. So it could make the difference here. Only time will tell.
Two guys on the front have not been in the pit yet?
No. They're I think the only two besides the 98.
Chuck Winters taking advantage of that opportunity, Frank, to get in there and get right side rubber and gas. So we're down there in the pits watching the ongoing, but again, we'll see. A couple of the other crews thought about it, but it looks like everybody else will leave their cars out. So now, Bill Kimmel Jr., Bill Webb, Gregg Pike, Chuck Winters on the cars on the lead lap who have decided to take on fuel. But again, keep in mind, Winters is the only one, Frank, that has fresh rubber. Joe has fresh tires on the right side. We're here to 15 on.
And the number 6 of Rick Carr being held up at the end of pit road. He's back into the lineup once again. The number 44 of Larry Meadows and the number 5 of Scott Walters, first and second place, as they roll down into turns 3 and 4. Up around the speedy dry in the third and fourth turn, the green flag is back out. Keep in mind the number 77 of Keith Storms, although I believe is not on the lead lap. Or if he is, he's at the very tail of the lead lap, about to be put one lap down as the leaders work out of turn number 4 and back down the front straightaway. Into turns 1 and 2, Meadows is your leader, and the number 44 has led the first 133 laps of this contest, and as they tiptoe through the speedy dry that's been laid down in the third and fourth turn, and then they scoot back down the front straightaway. Battle developing for second now as the number 69 of Bill Kimmel Jr. had taken a peek to the inside of Scott Walters, and he does so once again going into turns 3 and 4. Walters scooting out of turn number 4. Kimmel's right on the button as he looks down on the low side of the part of the racetrack. So that's the battle for second as the number 69 of Bill Kimmel Jr. tries to pull up along the inside of the number 5 of Scott Walters. Larry Meadows, from the meanwhile, has had his hands full trying to get around that number 77 of Keith Storms. Storms, although maybe a lap down, are trying to remain on the lead lap as they move into turns 3 and 4 once again. Down the front straightaway, they click off lap number 137. And into turns 1 and 2. Larry Meadows looking for that $300 bonus to be paid at the halfway point of this contest by Right Way Grinding Saw and Tool as they work out of turn number 4. And again, a side-by-side battle for second. Bill Kimmel Jr. on the inside, and the number 5 of Scott Walters, 22-year-old driver there, running on the outside of Bill Kimmel Jr. for the second place position. Going fourth, it's the number 98 of Keith Gardner, and then rounding out the top 5 is the number 28, the 1990 late model champion here at Louisville Motor Speedway, Frank Kimmel. Again, a good side-by-side. Whoa, and they touch, they hit, they square off up in turn number 4. Bill Kimmel Jr. tangled with the number 5 of Scott Walters. As the yellow flag comes out, Walters remains on the lead lap, gets back across the line, and it looks as though Bill Kimmel Jr. is parked up against the outside retaining wall up in turn number 4. It will be going down to pit road here very shortly to Scott Douglas.
I would think the Scott Walters and obviously the Bill Kimmel Jr. crew may have to come in after their altercation up in the turn 4 area of the racetrack. Obviously those guys battling wheel to wheel for so many laps, and something finally gave way as Kimmel and Walters came together. Now again, the pits remaining closed until the pace car has sufficiently picked everybody up. Indeed, the Harris Racing crew is going to be bringing Scott Walters in. I believe the Bill Kimmel Jr. crew indeed may come in as well. Looking up and down pit road, trying to keep up. We'll check on some of the other crews trying to get right back. But again, keep an eye now as the pace car comes around. The Bill Kimmel Jr. car, they're trying to get it refired, and that's a problem for him. But the Harris Racing team ready, and Scott Walters indeed is in the pit. We'll come down and keep an eye on his pit stop. Walters is coming around. He will take on not only fuel, but he'll also be taking on right side rubber. The jack goes up on the Roadrunner Video Club's car. The fuel being poured in, they'll top it off so they'll have enough fuel to go the rest of the way. Now the right side rubber being applied. The Roadrunner Video Club's number 5, the Oldsmobile Cutlass of Scott Walters, taking on. They've got the fuel. Both cans have gone in. They've got it topped off. The tank is full. Tires are changed. Billy Harris changing the tires now on that side. They come around to the other side. Talk Billy Harris with instructions for his driver. Scotty Walters comes back out. But it looks like he did not get out as he'll go down 1 lap. Walters not out in time. Goes down a lap to the leaders.
Man, oh man, I tell you.
Bill Kimmel Jr. car is in, Frank, and Bill Kimmel Jr. obviously sat there for a while, cost him some time there, and he took on some damage. There is sheet metal damage a little bit on the front. They're pulling it away, and Bill Kimmel Jr. motioning with his hands, say, come on, let's go. And no, they're going to have to pop the hood on the Kimmel Jr. car. Big problems. Bill Kimmel Jr. battling for second, but his night now apparently will end, or at least any chance of a victory will end here on the pit road.
Well, I tell you what, it looked like that Bill Kimmel Jr. certainly was holding all the cards. He had already made a pit stop, had worked his way up to third place, was battling with Scott Walters into turns 3 and 4, but the two cars came together. The pit boards are being shown on the inside wall here, and it looks like on the next yellow, they are asking one of the other cars to come in here. I believe that was on the Gregg Pike automobile, the number 47.
I need to see him.
Is coming around. He will take on not only fuel, but he'll also be taking on right.
Position to stop for gas. Moving down into turns 3 and 4, the green flag comes back out on the Metal Center Bluegrass 300, and they're off into turns 1 and 2. And down the back straightaway, the number 44 of Larry Meadows continues to lead. The number 98 of Keith Gardner at second. The 5 car of Scott Walters is 1 lap down. And the third place running car, the number 28 of Frank Kimmel, rounds out the top 3. The 87 of Bill Webb, he too has taken an early pit stop. And then the number 47 of Gregg Pike, he too has made a pit stop. So that's the way they look right now. Back into turns 1 and 2, and it's clear sailing for Larry Meadows. Here comes your right way grinding saw and tool. Halfway bonus here being paid to Larry Meadows. Another cool $300 going out to Larry Meadows, collecting the right way grinding saw and tool bonus at lap number 150. The car's got right way grinding saw and tool written all over the front as well. Out of turn number 4 and down the front straightaway, Larry Meadows, lap number 151. Scott Walters in the number 5 needs to get around Meadows to put himself back on the lead lap and then chase himself back through the traffic again. Out of turn number 4. It's Larry Meadows. Your second place car is now the number 28 of Frank Kimmel, fine driver from Jeffersonville, Indiana, who has made his pit stop. And as they move down the back straightaway, the number 87 of Bill Webb running at third, and then it's the number 98 of Keith Gardner going fourth, followed by Gregg Pike in the 47. Now, Chuck Winders has gotten around Pike and taken over the number 5 spot, and you have to keep in mind that Winders has brand new rubber on the outside. So Winders cutting back through this field and down into turns 1 and 2. Again, keep in mind Chuck Winders has new tires on his automobile in the number 5 spot. Okay, 155 laps complete. Scott Walters trying to get around Larry Meadows, get back on the lead lap after that untimely accident up in the 4th turn area. The Harris crew put new fresh tires on the Roadrunner Video Club's Oldsmobile too. And although 1 lap down, he has new tires on the outside. Anyone will tell you new tires are better than used tires, and Larry Meadows has 157 laps on his machine. Still, he remains the leader in the Robert Hobart Trucking Company Racing Chevrolet Lumina. Down into turns 3 and 4. Battle for position, and it's for spot number 3 in the lineup as they work out of turn number 4. The number 87 of Bill Webb, 1988 late model champion, and the number 98 of Keith Gardner, the winner of this event 1 year ago, racing for 3rd place. And it looks as though our 5th place car, Chuck Winders, has caught them. So 3rd, 4th, and 5th place now move bumper to bumper down into turns 1 and 2. As again, they try to get around the outside of Keith Storms in the number 77, who is not on the lead lap. Out of turn number 4, Webb looking to the outside of Storms. Into turns 1 and 2. Gardner trying to draw a bead on the inside of Webb. Winders is just going to watch that battle in front of him there as we are just now over the halfway point of this Metal Center Bluegrass 300. Bill Webb trying to take the Gary Hostetler prepared C-Line Engineering Pontiac to the outside of Keith Storms. Moving into turns 1 and 2, and once again keep in mind the 77 of Storms is not on the lead lap. Frank Kimmel, for this matter, is currently in the number 3 spot, has service on his car, has plenty of fuel to go the distance, sits solidly at the number 3 position right now. Excuse me, he sits in the number 2 spot. Kimmel in the number 2 spot, as the number 5 of Scott Walters is 1 lap down, but directly behind our leader, and I had mistaken him for the 2nd place car. Kimmel is your 2nd place car. Larry Meadows in the 44 continues to lead out of turn number 2 and down the back straightaway. Coming around to complete lap number 165 this time around. And again, out of turn number 4, that group of 3rd, 4th, and 5th place trying to get around that number 77 of Keith Storms on the back straightaway. Bill Webb now pulls up along the outside of the 77 and down the front straightaway once again. Keith Gardner in there as well. And I would believe once they shake loose of the 77, they can go in pursuit of the 2nd place running Frank Kimmel in the number 28. As again, they have to get around Keith Storms. Storms shuts his machine down. Whoa, trouble up in turn number 1. Kimmel up against the outside retaining wall. Webb and the number 8 of Chuck Winders also tangling, although it looks like minor damage to his machine. The number 98 of Keith Gardner's car is also sitting over in turn number 2. And once again, it looks as though something may have gone wrong with the number 28 of Frank Kimmel's machine. It has laid a lot of oil down in the 1st and 2nd turn. Do not know what this is all about. Let's go to Scott Douglas down on pit road.
got in here before the red flag came out, and now everybody, the red car has come in. The Gardner car, the 98 car, they were hoping to wait until lap 200 for their caution flag. They end up banged up and sitting in the turn. So right now, they're looking underneath the Larry Meadows car, checking the rear end of that number 44 machine. So Meadows running so strong all the way. Now major repairs ongoing for Larry Meadows in the 44. The red flag, obviously Frank Scott means reverting back a lap. But again, I'm not sure where that puts Larry Meadows, first of all, as to what can be done to get the car repaired. But if the Robert Homer trucking number 44 is repaired, not sure where that's going to leave the Meadows car. It actually came in before the red flag came out and before the pace car picked up the leader. So that's one big question right there. The Gardner car is refired, so Kevin Gardner and his crew looking to get ready to go as soon as the pits are reopened. They'll bring their car in. The cars that have remained on the lead lap are the ones, obviously, that are going to benefit here, that are the ones that are able to continue and able to go. And that's the question right now. What cars are going to be able to continue in this race? As now, it has truly become a war of attrition. And we still have a long way to go. Barely past halfway of tonight's WAMC Metal Center Bluegrass 300. They continue waiting to go underneath the Larry Meadows car, and now they're pushing the car at this point. Yeah. So we'll try, Frank, let me go around here. We'll try and see exactly what else is going on in terms of the Meadows situation. The Webb car is in the pits, and the Gary Hostetler car, he is sitting here as well. And we'll just have to wait and see exactly what ends up shaking down. But obviously a great run for some folks, I think, ended a little prematurely right there.
Sure did, Scott. It looks like a lot of oil and probably H2O laid down in the first turn area. Could not tell whose car that came from. Perhaps the number 28 of Frank Kimmel. It's really up in the air as to who laid down the debris up in turn number 1 that set this calamity off up in the first turn area.
Frank just got away from Kevin Gardner and the crew in the Gardner pit. They're going to come in on the yellow, but they don't think they're hurt very bad. They think the defending champion, the Byerly Ford Thunderbird's going to be okay, but they wanted to wait till lap 200 instead. Now, as soon as the yellow flag is displayed, the pits are open. They're going to bring the Gardner car in for pits. Now continue to walk down pit road trying to survey and see who else might be deciding to make a move or come in at this point. The Terry Shirley racing team all looking across at the Frank Kimmel car, and Frank Kimmel out to talk to track officials as well. Now again, nothing can be done on the red flag, Frank, as you know, and that's the situation right now. Everybody is in. Larry Meadows with the helmet off, the window net up. A lot of these cars are going to come in, Frank Scott, when this yellow flag comes out. Something to keep an eye on, and I'll keep going up down the pit to see what we can find out.
Okay, so Scott Douglas is down in the pit area right now with a remote microphone. He's headed over towards the Larry Meadows pit, and Larry climbing out of his car. Maybe Scott Douglas can get a word with the leader of this event, who has led throughout the first 166 laps right now. Scott Douglas walking over to Larry Meadows.
I'll tell you what, we're in. Larry, boy, it was going great. What happened to you? I think we lost the rear, Scott. The thing looked like it couldn't have been running better up to that point. It was moving back. It was smooth. You had it covered. And you all thought about that. They were going to continue to play it by ear. You guys, some other cars are taking on tires, but they weren't able to get around you. You felt confident to stick with that combination?
That's looking too good. I got 166 laps now.
Obviously, you're not going to get the first place money. You pick up the first two bonuses, and at 166, you're also going to get another.
Yeah, if I get my hopes up, I'll give you a bonus. Okay.
Easy to pay a little bit. Larry, I tell you, you guys better get it together. They're pulling away from the breeze.
He's in the pits.
Okay.
Trying to keep from losing a lap.
Third.
This
this guy. I heard he was second. Losing a lap.
And now they've shut the engine down on the Gardner car. So Keith Gardner, they have turned the engine on the Gardner car.
Boy, I tell you what a heartbreaker, and it happens on pit road. Keith Gardner's machine now shut off. The number 98, the winner of this event 1 year ago, as the jack has been let down on the Ford Thunderbird Super Coupe. It is away, though, and Scott Douglas, it looks like Keith Gardner, although only lost one lap into the pits. The number 47 of Gregg Pike in the pit area right now, receiving some service.
Trying to get into Gardner pit as well. And then Gregg Pike has come through, but I think they're going to restart. Gregg Pike is putting the brake back out. Still not able to determine what exactly happened to the Gardner cars. Again, what happened to a really costly stop this year. Obviously, we're documenting down here for Keith Gardner with 166 in the book, and they're still continuing to pick up some pieces, it looks like. Going to get back if I can, right before the restart into the Gardner crew while I'm watching the car. If I get Kevin over here. Grab it real quick. Stuck in the middle there. What happened to you? They say they can't do any good like that, but the Gardner crew broke a shock in the spring. They're going to try and ride it out. But obviously, they're not going to be able to go to the front. Bad break for the Valley Ford Thunderbird, but the defending champ broke a shock in the spring. All they can do at this point, they did what they could. They're going to have to try and ride it out to see how they can finish, but no one's going to go to the front. Like a brutal bad break for the defending world champion, the Kevin Gardner crew and Keith Gardner drive.
Okay, our rundown shows Frank Kimmel, the 1990 late model champion here at Louisville Motor Speedway, the leader. The number 8 of Chuck Winders running at second, and then the number 5 of Scotty Walters going third. At fourth, the scoreboard shows the number 98, although not on the lead lap, and then the number 47 of Gregg Pike. And once again, we're sure Pike is probably not on the lead lap, but that's the way the top 5 look right now. It's boiled down to 3 principal players after 166 laps. The number 28 of Frank Kimmel, the number 8 of Chuck Winders, and then the number 5 of Scott Walters. Although it's seemingly not impossible for Keith Gardner as well as Gregg Pike to swing back around and get back on the lead lap.
Only the top 5 on the lead lap.
Okay, they are on the lead lap.
Yeah, those are the only ones.
Davey?
Yeah.
98 and 47 are on the lead lap.
Yes.
Okay.
Those top 5.
Okay. Our word from the NASCAR scoring is that the laps under red were not scored, so that the number 98 of Keith Gardner is on the lead lap, and the 47 of Gregg Pike is also on the lead lap. So it looks like 5 cars on the lead lap right now after 166 laps of competition. Although car number 98, Keith Gardner, is nursing a crippled race car, we understand a broken shock absorber on the number 98. Field rolling down into turns 1 and 2, and down the back straightaway, the number 28, Frank Kimmel, leading the field into turns 3 and 4. Green flag's back out on the Metal Center Bluegrass 300. And down the back straightaway, Scott Walters trying to make a move for second now as he jets around the outside of the number 8 of Chuck Winders as they work off turn number 4. Back into turns 1 and 2, Scott Walters has taken over the number 2 spot. Winders fights right back to the inside. They're side by side now for second, moving into turns 3 and 4 as the number 77 of Keith Storms is again into the picture, but not on the lead lap right now. Down into turns 3 and 4, and the top 3 cars all get bumper to bumper out of turn number 4. And down the front straightaway, the number 98 of Keith Gardner once again back on pit road. The top 3 cars, here goes Chuck Winders looking for the lead. Moving into turns 3 and 4, he's side by side with Frank Kimmel as they work out of turn number 4. And the 77's on the lead lap. Down the back straightaway. And into turns 3 and 4, Frank Kimmel, your leader, trying to find his way around Keith Storms in the number 77.
coming up on it.
Moving into turns 1 and 2 now on the 77 of Keith Storms. Although not on the lead lap, really a marker in this thing as Bill Webb has received some assistance, and the number 87 is back into moving back into the lineup here, out of the pit area. 172 laps completed here. Frank Kimmel in the Sea Line Engineering Melton Food Marts and Clarksville Schwinn and Fitness Chevrolet Lumina is your leader. The number 5 of Scott Walters finds himself about the same place he was last year at second place, and the car number 8 of Chuck Winders currently running at third now as they work out of turn number 4 and down the front straightaway. Your fourth place running car is the number 47 of Gregg Pike, as the number 98 of the number 98 of Keith Gardner has relinquished the fourth place position some laps ago by pulling down on pit road, and it looks like the Gardner brothers car is being pushed aside. 175 laps now completed. Coming up on the next bonus being paid at lap number 200. Trouble up in turn number 4. It's the number 74 of Brian Baum spinning in the 4-turn area, getting down onto the apron, and it looks like it'll bring out the caution flag. So the yellow flag coming out at lap number 177 for Brian Baum and car number 74, the driver out of Yorktown, Kentucky, spinning in the 4-turn area. And Scott Douglas is standing down on pit road, and I believe he may have some word on the Gardner car that was just pushed over to the side. The number 98 of Keith Gardner's machine pushed out of competition. Maybe Scott Douglas has the story on that. Bonus will be paid in 20 more laps. The number 77 of Keith Storms is on the lead lap, but just about set to get put a lap down here. Keith Storms in the number 77 is your 5th place running automobile, and he is now 1 lap down to the leaders, moving into turns 1 and 2. It's car number 28, Jeffersonville, Indiana's Frank Kimmel, moving down the back straightaway in his Sea Line Engineering prepared Chevrolet Lumina. Cranks it a little sideways out of turn number 4, and stalls on that steering wheel, moving back into turns 1 and 2. The number 5 of Scott Walters is the 2nd place running car right now. We've just heard from Jerry Lee, the crew chief on the number 8 of Chuck Winders' machine. They believe they can go the distance here, and it can certainly be a factor in this thing. The number 8 of Chuck Winders. That's the top 3 cars. Now the number 47 of Gregg Pike, once again, is the 4th place running car on the lead lap, and the 77 of Keith Storms is running 5th, but 1 lap down. So that's the situation right now at lap number 184.
That bonus sheet. Yeah. I don't want it back here.
Down the back straightaway, and it looks like we've got a switch up for the lead as the number 5 of Scott Walters takes over the number 1 spot. The number 28 of Frank Kimmel once again getting held up there by the 77 of Keith Storms, and the number 8 of Chuck Winders right there at 3rd. So a switch up for the lead. Scott Walters, the leader, coming around, clicking off lap number 187. The number 28 of Frank Kimmel running at 2nd, and the number 8 of Chuck Winders goes 3rd. Gregg Pike at 4th, and rounding out the top 5, the 77 of Keith Storms, although not on the lead lap. Coming up very shortly to the bonus being paid at lap number 200, a $250 bonus from the Medal Center to the leader of lap number 200. Right now it looks like it's all Scott Walters in the number 5 as he has built up nearly a 3/4 of a straightaway advantage over his nearest competitor, the number 28 of Frank Kimmel. Car number 28, Frank Kimmel, as well as Chuck Winders, has shaken free of Keith Storms, and they begin running down our leader, the number 5 of Scott Walters, into turns 1 and 2. Coming up now with about 8 laps to go before that $250 bonus is paid to the leader of lap number 200. Scott Walters, the leader in the number 5 Roadrunner Video Club's Oldsmobile. As the number 74 Brian Baum returns to racing action out of the pit area. Scott Walters, the leader now, looking to the outside of the number 83 of David Cornettet. Cornettet gets put yet another lap down, now looking to the outside of Ron Phillips in the number 39 as they move side by side down the back straightaway. Sparks being displayed from Brian Baum's machine as he scoots up the 15-degree banking and then down the front straightaway. Again, the battles for second and third place now on the back straightaway. Bill Kimmel Jr. in car number 69 looking to the outside of David Cornett. And Frank Kimmel dropping right in line behind his older brother, the 69 of Bill Kimmel Jr., moving into turns 1 and 2 as they move around the lap traffic. Ron Phillips in the number 39. Lap number 199 goes into the books, and the field is going down the back straightaway. The number 5 of Scott Walters set to pick up a $250 bonus from the Medal Center by leading lap number 200. So lap number 200 is now complete. Scott Walters, $250 richer here tonight. The number 28 of Frank Kimmel gets a little loose coming out of turn number 2 and moving down into turns 3 and 4 as we see the interval between first and second place beginning to get a little bit closer each and every lap. The number 8 of Chuck Winters continues to run at third, and Gregg Pike in car number 47 goes fourth, and he is the last car on the lead lap. The fourth place running car of Gregg Pike. Switch up for second now, and it's car number 8, Chuck Winters at the end of the back straightaway, taking over the number 2 spot, getting around Frank Kimmel. Kimmel had difficulty getting out of turn number 2. Down the back straightaway, and it's Winters running at second, then Kimmel for third. 204 laps now completed. And the leaders move down into turns 3 and 4. Problems on Gregg Pike's machine, the fourth place running car, 47, parking his machine up in the 4-turn area, and it brings out the caution flag. So the yellow flag coming out for our fourth place running car, Gregg Pike, and it looked like sparks were displayed underneath the chassis of that machine, and it brings out the caution flag at lap number 205. And that large margin that Scott Walters built up over the rest of the field now gets down to 0 margin as the number 8 of Chuck Winters lines right up behind him there. The third place running number 28 of Frank Kimmel. Although the 47 of Gregg Pike posted in the number 4 spot is no longer on the lead lap and maybe not even in the race, we'll just have to see. And the 77 of Keith Storm's not on the lead lap. Let's go down to Scott Douglas.
Now meaning, of course, the pace car out to pick up the leader. I believe the Frank Kimmel car is the one to watch. The 28 was obviously struggling. Problems of late. Gregg Pike also still a shower spark. He'll have to come in as soon as they open the pits. But the show race team in the rear. And we'll get the pit ready. Bring Frank Kimmel into the pit. So we're going to watch the Kimmel stop right here. Critical stop. Because although Frank and lost the lead and also called the third, he still remains.
They close it
So now they're going to once again
until the scoring gets settled down, so nobody loses their place. Let them in.
Calls for Frank Kimmel, the brand new number 28 Chevrolet Luna. The Jerry really ride down pit road. So that's what we're watching for Frank Kimmel on that pit stop. Also, let's see the Chuck Winters car. We're going to get the Gregg Pike car to come in. And with a lot of help, the Jack model on Pike car there had a whole bunch of problems with the number 47 crew. Finally, they get the help, they get the Jack out.
It looks as though
Frank Kimmel is not able to try to get down. They wanted to come in, but the entrance to the pit road has been drawn. So, again, this time around, Frank Kimmel, I believe, will try to come in and get to a clear thing to that car that obviously has been losing some ground to the Scott Walters and Chuck Winters entries.
the Bud Light push car giving some assistance to Keith Storms, who was blocking the entrance.
Apparently, indeed, they changed the strategy there at Gregg Kimmel. They're going to go ahead and let him stay out. They wanted him in, and they stayed. Still riding those back and forth. So Gregg Kimmel, apparently, will go ahead and ride it on out. Now they're saying everything's okay. They're going to leave Gregg Kimmel out on the racetrack and show him exactly what they're going to do with him. So they thought about it, changed their mind, apparently decided to stay out, afraid the yellow wouldn't last long enough and they'd lose some ground. Gregg Kimmel going to go ahead apparently and stay out on the racetrack.
Okay, and the number 47 of Gregg Pike received some assistance, as well as the number 77 of Keith Storms. It looks like he is having problems getting his car started. He's receiving some assistance from the Bud Light push car as he pulls onto the front straightaway. Bill Webb gets together there with Scott Walters going into turns 1 and 2. Walters shakes free from that action and maintains the lead as they come around to collect lap number 212. Back into turns 1 and 2, and Frank Kimmel once again keeping our eyes on that machine, the number 28. Currently in the number 3 position, and again, they think there might be a problem on that car. 213 complete, and the field is back into turns 1 and 2. Out of turn number 4, and it's still the number 5 of Scott Walters and the number 8 of Chuck Winders moving into turns 1 and 2. Through it all, it seems ironic that the first and second place automobiles are the only two that we know of that took on tires in this event, so that could have been the factor. Although staying out of the accidents certainly seems to be a big part of it here tonight as well. Scott Walters out of turn 4 and about 4 car lengths. Back into turns 1 and 2. The 47 of Gregg Pike posted in the number 4 spot, although I'm not sure if he's on the lead lap. And Somerset, Kentucky's Jack Cornett posted in the number 5 position. So Jack Cornett of Somerset, Kentucky posted up on the leaderboard for the first time this evening. Coming up on lap number 220 this time around. The pole position, and nearly all the bonuses have been paid. The next thing will be that large check for $3,000 going to the winner here tonight. Scott Walters draws 1 lap closer. The interval between first and second place still remains about that 3 to 4 car lengths. Walters back into turns 1 and 2. And the number 8 of Chuck Winders continues to run at second. Frank Kimmel a distant third, although on the same straightaway with the leaders. And they're back into turns 1 and 2 again. The experts had said that this would never go down to a 3-car battle for the lead. 3 cars on the lead lap, 3 cars bumper to bumper like it did 1 year ago. After 224 laps of competition, the experts have been wrong so far. "75 laps away from a finish, and 22-year-old Scott Walters of Louisville, Kentucky, former Kentucky Motor Speedway track champion, leads this event for Billy Harris, car builder of this machine. Auburndale Auto Parts and Machine putting the horsepower under the hood. Gene Cummings, a cousin, putting the horsepower in Scott Walters' 1990 Oldsmobile. Out of turn number 2 and down the back straightaway. The number 8 of Chuck Winders has decided to go racing now and has looked to the inside and once again goes bumper to bumper into turns 1 and 2. 1989 track champion here at Louisville Motor Speedway. The Kentucky Lottery Custom Concepts Racing Buick. Out of turn 4 and again Winders looks to the inside. Former Kentucky Bourbon softball player and a firefighter for the city of Louisville. Down into turns 3 and 4. And again, it has come down to a two-car race for the lead. Kimmel just about 2.5 seconds back from the leaders, sits at third place. And again, the word from the Terry Shirley crew is that the number 28 of Frank Kimmel's machine is ailing tonight, somewhat crippled by an accident a few laps back in the event. Laps winding down now, 231 up on the board. Scott Walters trying to pick his way around LaGrange, Kentucky's David Cornett down the front straightaway and chooses to use the outside and then moves down into turns 1 and 2. The number 8 of Chuck Winters has reeled him in, and again, Winters, you can see some damage to the left front of his 1990 Buick Regal coming down the front straightaway, and again, they come in on the 5th place running car of Jack Cornett. The number 37 Monfreid Optical Superstores ride going at least one more lap down to the leaders, but that's your 5th place running car, Jack Cornett. Hails all the way from about 2 hours away at Somerset, Kentucky.
Whose signature was? 23.
234 here complete tonight. And again, Scott Walters moves down into turns 1 and 2 and rewinds that number 5 Roadrunner Video Club's Oldsmobile. Press box. Yes. Yes. Do what I can. Okay. Once again, it has boiled down to a two-car race for the lead as the number 5 of Scott Walters whips past the outside of the number 74 of Brian Baum down the back straightaway. Baum goes yet another lap down to the leaders. The number 8 of Chuck Winters now working on the outside of Baum, coming down the front straightaway here. Moving back into turns 1 and 2. Lap number 236 complete. 238 now complete here tonight. And Scott Walters, again, has opened up quite a bit of real estate between himself and the second place running Chuck Winters. And it looks like Walters now getting back into some lap traffic on the back straightaway as he looks to the outside of Jim Ron Phillips in the number 39. And now to the outside of the 4th place running car, Gregg Pike in the number 47. Pike racing there with the number 33 of Ron Page. Out of turn number 4, Walters looking to the outside of Gregg Pike now as they whip off into turns 1 and 2, past the VIP luxury suite and down the back straightaway. Once again, the number 28 of Frank Kimmel continues to run in the number 3 spot, the 1990 late model champion here at Louisville Motor Speedway. Moving down into turns 1 and 2 and then down the back straightaway. Cars that are not on the lead lap minding their manners here tonight, and a considerable amount of sportsmanship shown when those leaders come up behind them. They pull over to the left side of the racetrack and allow those leaders to pass on the outside. So a lot of sportsmanship being displayed here tonight. Frank Kimmel now in the number 28, the 3rd place running car, moving in on Gregg Pike in the number 47. Looking to the outside as they come out of turn number 4. Well, with clear racetrack in front of him, Scott Walters, who continues to lead now, coming up very closely now to the 250 lap mark. And the big question right now is, can Chuck Winters reel in that leader and perhaps make it a 2-car race? Frank Kimmel in the number 28 now. 1 car away from breaking free from the lap traffic, and he too could go in pursuit of the 2 leaders here. Number 28, Frank Kimmel, looking to the outside of Ronnie Page. Page completing his first full year in the late model division. Here comes Kimmel around the outside of Ronnie Page as they move side by side into turns 1 and 2. Just a few moments, we'll get the time interval between first and second place after 250 laps of competition. It's still the number 5 of Scott Walters out front, the number 8 of Chuck Winters running at second. Frank Kimmel going third. Those are the only 3 cars on the lead lap as Scott Walters comes across the start-finish line and then back into turns 1 and 2. We'll give you a lap time on how fast Scott Walters is getting around this Louisville Motor Speedway. Out of turn number 4 now. Scott Walters flicking off a 13.850 second, and it looks like it's a 0.816 second difference between first and second right now. Walters out of turn 4. And again going on the clock. The number 8 of Chuck Winters running at second. Again, it's a little less than a full second behind Chuck Winters, the second place running car. Back into turns 1 and 2. Walters turning a lap of 14.029, and again a 0.8 second differential between first and second place. The big question, I guess, right now, 255 laps into the event, 45 away from the finish, as Chuck Winters got enough for Scott Walters here. As they come out of turn 4 and down the front straightaway, Winters' car weebles a little bit. Walters out of turn number 4 and down the front straightaway. The number 5 of Scott Walters and the Roadrunner Video Club's Oldsmobiles got it up and fast forward tonight, folks. 258 in the books here tonight. Chuck Winters in the number 8, still running in the number 2 spot. And again, that interval about 8 car lengths separating the cars. Scott Walters out of turn 4 collecting lap number 260. There's trouble over in turn 2, and it looks like the number 33 of Ronnie Page has spun in the second turn area of the racetrack. Walters moving down the front straightaway, and the caution flag comes out. Yellow flag coming out on the Meadows Center Bluegrass 300 after 261 laps away now. And it looks like we're within 39 laps of a finish here this evening. Not much closer than a 30-lap feature event here. 39 away from the finish. As again, we go down to the pit area, and Scott Douglas is standing by. Scott. Okay, the big story all week long is, can you go the distance on the tires? And evidently they've given up on the number 28. He'll roll down pit road, and Terry Shirley and the crew out of Seymour, Indiana will go to work.
Frank Kimmel is in the pits, and immediately they do go to the right side. So the Shirley Racing team, knowing they'll get their spot back if they can get out and not lose a lap here, that is going to be a critical mass, of course, for Frank Kimmel. But they're coming around ready to go to the run. This could be very costly, trying to get Frank Kimmel out.
Car prepared out of C-Line Engineering. Buddy Rauch and Dick Schroeder.
On the pits, Frank Kimmel trying to get those right sides changed, and they're coming around. And it may cost him a lap. Kimmel coming out. They'll stay on the lead lap, but barely. He's still on the lead lap, but barely.
And the 1990 late model champion, Frank Kimmel, gets back into the event and on the lead lap with new tires on the machine. It'll be Scott Walters, though, in car number 5 taking the green flag. And he's got the 1989 late model champion, the number 8 of Chuck Winters, right there on his back bumper. And I believe Chuck Winters is blowing the horn at this point. They're back into turns 1 and 2. 269 in the books here tonight. Back into turns 3 and 4, and has the tires made a difference on Kimmel's machine? Well, only time will tell. Can he pull away from our leader, the number 5 of Scott Walters, and remain on the lead lap and then hope for a caution? The number 5 of Scott Walters was able to once again open up about a 6 or an 8 car length advantage over Chuck Winters. And as Billy Harris had so well documented that the 5 car was suffering some brake problems, running so many laps under green flag conditions that the brakes had heated up. The caution flag period has allowed the brakes to cool back down, and sometimes when you have better brakes, you can pull away. That's exactly the story on Scott Walters' machine, as it is tuned like a Swiss clock out here tonight. Out of turn number 4. Pulling in on Frank Kimmel, the number 28, the third place running car. Set to put him 1 lap down. And they're under that 30-lap window, so the distance now is no more than a regular Saturday night shootout. Walters looking to the outside of Kimmel now. Out of turn number 2 and down the back straightaway. They are side by side. Once again, Kimmel trying to remain on the lead lap, but it just doesn't look so. Walters to the outside. Chuck Winters, the number 8, is your second place running car. He cannot reel in Scott Walters. Out of turn number 4. And down the back straightaway, Frank Kimmel 1 lap down to the leader. Moving into turns 3 and 4 now. So Frank Kimmel, our third place running car, is 1 lap down to the leaders. That only puts 2 cars on the lead lap at the end of 277 laps here tonight. Out of turn number 4 and down the front straightaway, and again the number 5. So leading the event, the Roadrunner Video Club's Conover's Body Shop and Southern Metal Products Oldsmobile. The new generation of race driver here tonight. Scott Walters at only 22 years of age, a graduate of DeSales High School. Moving down the back straightaway. Looking for his first major race victory here at Louisville Motor Speedway. Coming in the Bluegrass 300, the Metal Center Bluegrass 300. 280 laps complete, and they're 20 away from a finish.
Scott Walters, he's 28 years old.
22.
22.
Graduate of DeSales High School.
Know what he does for a living?
He is a mechanic for Flynn Brothers Paving Company. He's won 2 features each year that this track has been open. He's got a total of 6 features here over 3 years. Not a major race victory yet. Races sometimes part-time on the ASA circuit, but no more than 5 races a year. Out of turn number 4, it's Scott Walters in car number 5, getting 1 lap closer to that $3,000 payday as he moves down the back straightaway. Back into turns 3 and 4, Frank Kimmel in the number 28 is able to stay right with him there. But Kimmel is at 3rd place and 1 lap down. With your second place running car is Chuck Winters, and it looks like Scott Walters is just flat driving away from him. Back into turns 3 and 4. Coming around to complete lap number 287. And 13 away from a finish here tonight at Louisville Motor Speedway in the 1990 running of the Metal Center Bluegrass 300. Scott Walters rolling down the back straightaway. He's got Frank Kimmel with him there. Just in front of him, about a straightaway ahead, is the number 37, Jack Cornett of Somerset, Kentucky. He's your 4th place running car as he again tries to get around the number 39 of Ron Phillips moving into turns 3 and 4. And the number 77 is Keith Storms. He's still currently in the number 5 position, although not on the lead lap. Only 2 cars on the lead lap right now. 10 away from the finish here. 290 laps completed. Scott Walters now moving down into turns 3 and 4, moving in behind Jack Cornett, our 4th place running car. Walters may or may not put him at least one more lap down to the field. It is now 293 are posted in the books. Coming up on 294 this time by, and 6 laps to go. 6 to go this time by for Scott Walters of Louisville, Kentucky. Out of turn number 2 and down the back straightaway. Chuck Winders continues to fall further and further behind. Now a full straightaway behind Walters. 5 to go, and Walters is into turns 1 and 2. Into turns 3 and 4 now. And the field has shown 4 to go this time around. Scott Walters in the 1990 Oldsmobile Cutlass, sponsored by Roadrunner Video Clubs here of Louisville. And I know Willie Worthington and the whole gang have to be very, very happy as their driver is coming within 3 laps now of his biggest career victory here at Louisville Motor Speedway. As he wheels off turn number 2 and down the back straightaway, his father Richard Walters looking on. Billy Harris and the fine crew out of Fairdale, Kentucky, watching his creation get around the track. Gene Cummings doing all the machining and engine work on this machine. Moving down into turns 3 and 4. And out of turn number 4, the white flag comes out. Less than 1 lap to go, and the Harris crew has to be very, very happy down on pit road as their young driver wheels their machine down into turns 3 and 4. Out of turn number 4, Scott Walters of Louisville, Kentucky wins the 1990 Metal Center Bluegrass 300. Chuck Winders of Pleasure Ridge Park, Kentucky across the line at second. Frank Kimmel, although 1 lap down, will be your 3rd place finisher in the number 28 car out of Sea-Line Engineering, sponsored by Melton's Food Marts. Once again, the Kentucky Lottery-sponsored Custom Concepts Racing Buick of Chuck Winders from Pleasure Ridge Park across the line at second, and rolling down the front straightaway is young Scott Walters will go on his victory lap here, winning probably the biggest career victory here at Louisville Motor Speedway.
5.5 second difference.
The interval between first and second was 5.5 seconds.
Well, Frank Scott's been Baptist down there in the Roadrunner Video Club crew while they're waving the checkered flags around. Scott Walters, the Metal Center Bluegrass 300 champ. Everybody in there is going to come through, and they're going to get him out right here, right now. WAMC Metal Center Bluegrass 300 coming out, and there's the champion, Scott Walters. We real quickly want to grab Scott real quick while everybody's here. Big hug from Billy Harris. Turn around and congratulations, young man. Scott Walters, the champ. Hey, I'll tell you, you lost the lap, and you guys just never even backed off there. Now, how did you see the race from your spot?
I knew last year I kind of played off at the beginning of the race, and I said this year I'm going to go for it all the way. The guys got me in and out, and I love them all, and I love everybody here.
Larry Meadows was awful strong early, but it seemed like you were willing to go ahead and try him. You tried him several times.
Larry was tough. I didn't want to push him too hard because we have a record or something, so I just figured I'd call him. Chuck wasn't pushing too hard, so I just ran safe.
And then, of course, it came to the spot you and Bill Kimmel got together. It looked like that might cost you, but you guys never seemed like you felt it was going to cost you a chance to win.
I didn't know what I had there. I spun around and got going again, and I was all right.
It didn't hurt the car at all, obviously. You came in, looked like the pit stop worked perfectly, and obviously you and Billy decided on the right time. Was it just a feel if this was the time to come in?
Well, we came in because we were afraid to go over 150 something laps. We run out of fuel, so we just took a chance of pitting earlier. Hopefully we can make the rest of 300.
Obviously, Larry got the early bonuses, but boy, you came in and got the big payday at the end of the race. It's a big one for you, Billy, and the crew, isn't it?
Yeah, I got to give all the credit to the guys. I mean, they were great.
Obviously, hey, a big drink, and he deserves it after a great race right there. Well, you know, it's been a situation we've talked about that you've won some track championships, you've been close on some of these biggies, but boy, this is a great one to put on the mantelpiece, isn't it, Scott?
This is the biggest one I ever won. I remember for a long time.
There he is, the champion, Scott Walters of the WAMC Meadows Center Bluegrass 300. We'll see Scott and the crew over in Victory Lane here in just a few moments.